Welcome to Buffy-less. I'm Risha.
And I'm Erin.
Hello. So we are on season 1, episode 5.
Buffy-less, Buffy-less.
This one is titled, Never Kill a Boy on the First Date.
Oh, well, yep.
Yeah.
Unless it's self-defense.
Well.
You know, maybe just don't kill a boy. Anyway.
All right.
Is it self-defense?
So this one.
Wait, is it going to be self-defense? Is it Buffy's first? Okay, sorry. I'm behaving.
This one I wrote a lot, but to be honest with you, I don't feel like a lot happened.
Okay.
So we'll see how this goes. But before we start, I do want to ask if you have any different rankings of your favorite characters.
Ooh, because what I think I said Buffy, Giles, and Angel, right?
Yeah.
I think Giles is still my favorite. Mm-hmm. I still really like Buffy. Mm-hmm. I think I might put Willow up there instead of Angel, just because we haven't seen as much of him.
That's true.
And I really enjoy Willow.
Mm-hmm. Willow's fun.
And I think I even gave her like an honorable mention shout out. Xander, I like him better after the last episode, but he's still like a little bit on my like cringe list, but I also, it's more like cute cringe and less like, oh, for fuck's sake. So I'm excited to see if he behaves this episode, if he's in it.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
All right. So we open at the beginning of this episode with Buffy fighting a vampire.
Iconic.
In the cemetery at night, as you do. And she's fighting with him, and then she says something like, "We haven't been properly introduced. I'm Buffy, and you're history." And she stakes him.
I love that.
She does that, and then Giles pops up from behind a headstone.
My boy! I am Giles' #1 fan.
He says, "Poor technique, prioritizing subpar." So he's like grading her slaying. He's saying that she's expending too much time and energy. Just plunge and move on. Plunge and move on.
It's called style, Giles.
And then he's like telling her this, and then he looks down and he goes, "What's this?" And he sees a ring that's in the ashes, and then it makes him nervous. And they kind of talk back and forth a little bit about it.
Because nervous Giles means he knows something.
And then we cut to the master.
Oh, yes.
Back in his little hidey hole that he's stuck in. And he starts talking about this other prophecy that's going on. The anointed, the master's great warrior, and the slayer will not know him, will not stop him, and he will lead her into hell.
Oh.
5 will die, and from their ashes the anointed will arise. As it is written, so it shall be. And one of the brothers shall die because he was hungry and couldn't wait to eat. He says something like that, and then he says, "Oh, wait, that's not written anywhere." And he chokes one of his lackeys and like throws him.
Oh my.
He was too hungry and couldn't wait, so he's like going through this whole thing, and then he's like, and the.
Oh my gosh, sassy boy.
Mm-hmm. And then it goes back to Giles and Buffy in the library, and Giles is researching, and he's like, "This has something to do with fidelity, but I don't know what it is, and I haven't seen this anywhere." And Buffy looks at it, and she's like, "Well, there's a sun and 3 stars on it, so is that something?" And Giles says, "Well, no, it's not. I haven't seen that." And she goes, "Look, it's right here." And she opens the book that he had. And then he's like, "Oh, the Order of Aurelius," which is what the master also had said in his whole prophecy thing. So he's looking at that, and he's talking about how serious this is again. And he's got to look up more about it. And then a high schooler walks in to the library, and Buffy kind of like straightens up and looks at him and says, "Oh, Owen, hi."
Oh, Owen. Hi.
And Giles looks up at him and says, "What do you want?"
We're working here.
Right? And Owen says, "A book."
Oh, he wants to ask Buffy out.
Well, and Giles said something like, "I didn't know that people actually did that here."
Oh. Poor Giles.
Right? And you find out that Owen is looking for an Emily Dickinson book.
Oh.
Because he loves her, and he lost one of his copies, and so he wants to have one to read.
Okay.
And Buffy's talking to him through this whole thing, and she's like, oh, Emily Dickinson? Or she says it wrong, and he's like, Dickinson? She's like, yeah, her too.
Oh, she's got it bad.
He said he didn't think he'd find her there because she doesn't look bookwormy.
Oh no.
And
Please don't change for the boy.
Like, looked up at him kind of, and he said, oh no, I must have offended you. I'm sorry. She said, no, I just didn't think you would have put any thought to how I am.
Oh.
And then
she calling him out.
They go down, and she's like, I love books. Books are great, you know.
And Giles is like, you lying little shit.
Right? And they said something more about Emily Dickinson, and Giles says she's quite a good poet for and Buffy goes, a girl? And Giles says, an American.
Ah! I knew there was no way my boy was sexist. I'm like, no, Giles is a feminist. God damn it. Okay, good. You had me for a second.
Oh, gosh. And then Owen says, see you in math. Buffy goes, cool.
My God. God, being in high school is so awkward.
Oh, my gosh. And then it cuts to Willow and Buffy talking. Willow says, Owen Thurman was talking to you? He likes Emily Dickinson. He's sensitive yet manly.
The ultimate hype woman.
Right. And they talk about how he's so broody. He's the broodiest guy in school. And they get to the lunch table. Xander's talking about something or other. And they look and see Owen sitting down at a table by himself. And Buffy says, maybe somebody should sit with him.
Sorry, do you remember when we thought broody guys were attractive?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, but now you learn, like, I mean, usually they just are working on their own shit or are pieces of shit, and that's why no one's hanging out with them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just remember when that illusion wasn't shattered for you?
Yeah. That was a time.
Oh, high school. Okay, anyway.
Right. But she says something like, just to be nice, maybe somebody should go sit with him. And then she walks over, and Willow responded back to her all knowingly. Mm-hmm. And Xander looks up, and he's like, what just happened? And she gets to the table, and Cordelia crashes into her, like hip checks her.
This bitch.
Right? And her whole tray falls down, and she's picking stuff up, and Owen's helping her pick stuff up. And Cordelia, this Buffy said, she said, Cordelia's hips are wider than I thought. I'm like, oh, dang, Buffy. But Cordelia invites Owen to the bronze.
Okay.
He says, who's going to be there? Cordelia, me. He says, who else? She goes, you mean besides me?
Yes, Cordelia.
And then he looks at Buffy and says, Buffy, what about you? And Cordelia says, she doesn't like fun.
Oh, my God.
And then Owen's like, do you want to meet there at 8? To Buffy.
Oh.
And then it cuts again to Buffy and Willow in the hallway, and Buffy is like, what's not that big a deal? And Buffy's like, no, and Willow is like, it's a very big deal. It's not. And you see Giles coming towards the library at the same time as they are. And Willow goes, tell her it's a big deal, to Giles. And Giles says, I'm afraid it's very big.
Oh, no. What do you know, Giles?
And Willow said, thank you. Wait. What are you talking about? And Giles says, what are you talking about?
Very different things.
The two girls in unison say, boys.
Poor Giles.
Giles is like, I'm talking about a violent prophecy. That's going to happen tonight.
Oh, no.
Buffy says it can't be tonight.
I've got a date.
She says that. He says, my calculations are spot on. She's like, they're bad calculations.
Oh, no.
Willow says something like, Buffy's got a date. And then Giles is like, you have to put it on hold. The dark forces are aligning against us, and we have a chance to beat them back. Tonight we go into battle.
I hope Giles is like a cool battle suit somewhere in the back of the library. He like hits a button and it like comes out like Frozone suit from the wall.
Amazing. It cuts then to an empty graveyard.
Oh.
And Giles and Buffy are just kind of sitting there.
So did she reschedule with Owen? Uh-oh.
Giles says, perhaps I miscalculated.
Giles.
Buffy says, I can bail?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay.
Giles then says, very well then, follow your hormones, if you will. I was sure it was tonight. And then it cuts.
Oh, no, again, Giles, you're never wrong.
It cuts to a bus.
Uh-oh.
Where there's people on this bus, and this guy in this like southern gruff voice, like Bible thumping kind of voice, says, you will be judged. And he's talking to this little boy that's playing with an airplane. And then it cuts again to the bronze where Owen is dancing with Cordelia. Buffy just like zoomed in, and then she turned around and left.
Yeah. Because she saw. Yeah. I was like, girl, were you late?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's kind of on you.
Right.
Okay.
But then it goes back to the bus, and this guy with the gruff voice talks about fire coming down, judgment. And then the bus driver says, you gotta sit down.
Knock that shit off.
Right, just stop. He's over it. It's late at night. And then there's a vampire standing in the street.
Oh.
And the bus crashes. The bus driver gets out to check on who he thought he hit. Gets vamped. Yeah.
Yep.
With the whole bus.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Even Preacher Boy?
Uh-huh.
Oh, shit.
Uh-huh. The whole bus gets attacked by vampires.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. And then it cuts back to school the next day. And it's Xander. And he's talking to Buffy. And he says, so you just went home? And Buffy was like, what was I supposed to do? And she says lots and lots of random things about like prophecies and slaying. She's going on a rant about how like, well, what could I tell him? You know, that I was stuck in the cemetery to fight vampires and blah, blah, blah. And then Xander says, or flat tire?
Right. Right.
And then she starts kind of freaking out about how she has no life. She's having no life. And blah, blah, and then somebody looks at her funny. And she's like, go on, you say it too. And then Xander tries to start comforting her and says something like, you could have any guy in school. Like, why are you being like upset about this one guy? Right.
Yeah.
And then Owen walks up to her and says, hey, Buffy, where were you?
Yeah.
And then she starts saying, my watch broke and we have no clocks in the house and nobody even knows how to read a clock in the house.
If Xander gave you the flat tire excuse, girl, it was right there. She's so awkward. I love it.
And then Owen says, let's try again tonight. You could
not tonight. Oh, Jesus.
He says you could even have my watch.
Oh.
He pulls out a pocket watch.
Oh, geez.
And hands it to her. And Xander looks at that and then like moves his arm to look at his watch, and it's a Tweety watch. And he's like looking back and forth. It's Tweety Bird, you know. He's looking back and forth at his and the pocket watch like, oh.
Pocket watches are pretty freaking cool. But also in high school, I feel like that's just very pretentious hipster.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of give kid with the roller backpack vibes.
You know. Let's see. Yeah.
The camo pants and the roller backpack. In high school. Roller backpack in elementary school, very different.
Yes, yep. I agree.
Roller backpack in high school, different vibes entirely.
Oh, yeah.
Just wanted to put that out there. Anyway.
Then it cuts to Giles with a teacup.
Who is never wrong.
He has a teacup and a saucer, which is adorable. He's kind of turning around. He's like rubbing his temples, you know, like
because he's never known a moment of peace.
Right. Constantly in his mind something's happening. But Buffy bursts in and does like a hi bye. She's like, nothing's tonight, right? Okay, bye. And then he looks back and he says, she is the strangest girl. And he keeps going about his stuff.
Yep.
And then it goes There's so many cuts in this episode, it's like almost like whiplash. It goes to the master. And he says, you have done well.
Oh, no.
Must bring him the anointed. And telling them like they're doing great and he needs the anointed pretty much to his lackeys. And then it cuts to Buffy and Willow and Xander in Buffy's room.
Okay.
Buffy's in a bathrobe. Willow's holding up different outfits.
Yep. Classic try-on issues. Yep.
Right. And she's like, I need a boy's opinion, Xander. You know? And he pulls out like a
grandma.
He pulls out a giant coat and like a ski cap.
Yep.
But then she pulls lipstick and she says, red or peach?
Oh.
And he looks at it and he goes, for kissing you so that he can tell all of his friends how loose you are.
Whoa.
The red is fine. And then Buffy says, I'll go with the peach.
Yep. Oh, jeez, Xander.
Right. There is a moment, too, when she goes to change and Xander's right there and Willow and Buffy both look at him. And he's like, I'm fine here. And then Willow pushes him behind something. And yeah, he's trying to peek at her still, but, you know. And then you hear ding dong. That's Owen, Buffy says. This time. Mm-hmm. And then she goes and opens the door. That's Giles.
My boy!
Goes,
no.
And he talks about his calculations, how they weren't wrong.
No, because he's always right.
There's bodies from the bus crash.
Oh, no.
There were 5 people killed in the bus crash. So they have to go to the funeral home. And then Buffy says, why do you want to hurt me? And then Owen comes. And Buffy says, bye. I'll return those overdue books by tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, because it's like, why is the school librarian at your house? Yeah, fair enough.
And Giles says, no, you're not getting off that easy.
Oh, my God.
Owen says, man, you really care about your work. And then, like, Xander and Willow separate Owen off for just a second to talk to him. And then Buffy and Giles have a back and forth.
Yeah.
But while Owen's over with Xander and Willow, Xander says something like, Buffy doesn't like to be kissed or touched. Matter of fact, don't even look at her.
Gosh.
And then over on the Giles and Buffy side, they're talking back and forth. And Buffy says something like, Clark Kent has a job, so let me have this. Like, I need to have something,
Sweetie.
You know? And so Buffy and Owen leave, go to the Bronze. And Giles decides he's going to the funeral home.
Okay.
And Willow looks out after him and says something like, we should go, like, with Giles.
Yeah.
And Xander's like, well, knowledge is the greatest tool, so he's fine.
No. Backup is good, too.
But at the Bronze, if you're interested in listening to the music that was being played, it's Strong by Velvet Chain. And there's another song that they do, too, in this same episode called Treason. I liked their vibe.
Cool.
It's kind of jazzy.
Ooh.
It was fun. But Owen is talking about how he finds most girls frivolous and that there's more important things in life than dating.
This is bad dating conversation.
Well, and so Buffy feels bad now that she was the frivolous wanting to only date instead of save the world.
Okay, but also, like, you're allowed to have a life. Also, Owen, don't do that. You're not like other girls.
Right. Oh, he's totally doing that.
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
And Cordelia goes up to them dancing. She walks in, finds them, and says, look at you here all alone.
This girl needs a hobby.
Owen says, I'm here with Buffy.
Oh, my God, this bitch. So she's acted like Buffy wasn't there.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then she says, want to dance? Owen says, no, I'm still here with Buffy. And then Cordelia says, so kind of you to want to help the needy.
Oh, my God.
And then Buffy says, Cordelia, Owen and I would like to be alone now. As in without you here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As an excused.
Right. And then it cuts again to Giles at the funeral home.
Oh, God.
2 vamps come up on him. He holds out a cross and runs.
Please tell me Willow and Xander came.
Well, he runs into the whole funeral home. He runs straight in. They're coming after him. He locks himself in the room that has the
morgue.
Yes,
Oh, boy.
the morgue. And he locks himself in.
That's
and
a bold choice.
He's trying to figure out a way to get out. The windows are barred.
It's through a body chute, isn't it?
There was no body chute in there.
Oh.
But Willow and Xander go to the window.
Oh.
They're from the outside looking in. And they tell them they're going to go get Buffy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, it cuts to the Bronze.
Okay.
And Cordelia says, I've never seen a girl throw herself at a guy like that.
The mirror? The mirror.
As she's saying this, Angel walks in. Walks past her and she says, hello, salty goodness. Yeah.
What the fuck?
And then he walks right up to Buffy and she's like, ugh, I'll put out. But Buffy is like waiting for Owen because he went to go get a drink.
Sure.
And Angel comes up to her and says, I was hoping I'd find you here. Serious stuff is happening right now.
Because Giles is never wrong. I'm going to name this episode Giles is Never Wrong. I won't. I usually just name it after the episode. Well, maybe I will.
Whatever works. But she says, she talks about how she's waiting for Owen, and it comes up and Angel says, you're here on a date? Oh. And Buffy says, yes.
What's it to you?
Right. Owen walks back over and she says, Owen, this is Angel. Angel, Owen, my date. And Angel is looking him up and down. But they both say like, hey, to each other. And Owen says, where do you know Buffy from? Angel says, work.
I mean, I guess. Yeah.
And then Owen looks at Buffy and says, you work?
Oh, boy.
But then Xander and Willow come bursting into them. And they show up and they pretend that they're on a double date. To like make Owen a little bit less suspicious.
Sure.
And they thought it would be fun to go on a double date. And Buffy said something like, no,
right,
I didn't know you guys were dating.
Right.
And then Willow said something like, well, we knew it was going to be inevitable, so we just decided,
That feels a little bit like foreshadowing.
I know. But they said, no, we'd like to go on a double date. And you know what would be fun? To go
the morgue.
At the funeral home.
Oh, God.
And
I have no chill.
Like, she said, bite me. And then figure out, she convinces Owen that she just has to go do something and he can't come, and she's not bailing on him, just something is coming up and she's got to go.
Just say you have the stomach flu and you're going to puke. Like,
but she gets to the funeral home with Willow and Xander. And well, before she leaves though, you see Angel in the background and Owen's on the left side of the frame, and Buffy comes running from the right side and gives him a kiss and then leaves.
Okay.
So you see like Angel in the background and Owen so it's kind of an interesting, framing. But they go to the funeral home and then they find out that Owen followed them.
Oh no.
Well, even when they brought it up, he said, oh, that sounds like fun,
What?
Okay. So Buffy runs to where Giles was hiding. She's opening cases that have the bodies in them, those refrigerator things. And Giles comes out of one of those.
Oh.
So he that's where he hid.
That's fair. Not a bad spot.
Because you can see like the bars that were on the window are torn apart and like the whole room had vampires come in.
Oh my God.
And Owen comes up and Giles says, you brought a date? And Buffy says, I'll get rid of him.
On purpose.
Right? And he said he can't go out there. We don't know how many others are out there.
Oh my God.
So you can't just have him like leave. So she hides them in an office and says she has to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Because she says, like,
at the funeral,
right? Hide in here in case a guard comes.
Oh, sure.
And then there's a curtain in the office as she's gone to the bathroom.
No.
Owen pulls it and says, oh my. And there's a dead body in front of them. Owen says he's read a lot about death, but has never seen a dead body before. Are they supposed to move? And so, like, Buffy hears them,
right,
because they were barricading the door And so they barricaded themselves in.
Shit.
So they have to try and get, but this guy is the Bible thumping Southern guy who's like being all slow and like, it is judged and you have been found wanting and all that kind of stuff. And Buffy goes after him as they're running to leave, and she gets thrown down by this vampire. And Giles is in that same room and says, like, yells, Buffy, and goes and gets, like, hit over the head or something. Oh. And then Owen is with Willow and Xander as they got chased back in because there were vampires at the front. And so they're hiding. And Owen says, somebody's got to help Buffy. And he runs into where Buffy was, hits the vampire, he threw Buffy again, the vampire did, because he had her, and he threw her again, and she hits her head. Ew. And then the vampire goes to bite Owen, and he cracks something that's like powdery over his head. Oh. And the vampire goes down.
I hope it was an urn.
Maybe. And then Owen goes over to Buffy, and he said, dude tried to bite me. Did you see that? What a sissy.
Yep, right? That's all it is.
Right? And then he's there, and the vampire gets up again and grabs Owen from behind and hits his head on one of the doors, like the refrigerator doors, and drops him down and says, dead.
Ooh.
So Buffy's angry now.
Yep.
She starts gymnasticking around, and she's saying, you killed my date. It's like fighting him more ferociously now. And you can see Owen stir a little bit on the ground. Like he's moving a little. And then Willow and Xander had come in at that time when they're hearing her say, you killed my date. And Willow says, Buffy, Owens, and Xander stops her. Give her a minute.
Let her use this rage.
Right. You killed my date, she throws again, like yells again, and then throws him into the cremation furnace. Oh. And then you see Owen get up and he says, anyone have any aspirin? Oh my God. Where's that guy? And they said, we scared him off.
Oh my gosh.
He's fine.
And he's just along for this ride.
Right.
Wow.
And then he's kind of spacing himself from Buffy right at this very second.
Fair.
And then Xander and Willow agreed to take him home because he wouldn't let her walk with him. Oh. And then the next day at school, Buffy's asking, did Owen ask about me when you walked him home? Did he say anything about me?
Did he get amnesia when he hit his head or something?
No.
Okay. No.
But they were like, no. And Xander says, you need somebody who knows all of your deepest, darkest secrets and still says, hey, I like that girl.
I mean, I hate that he's right.
It's true. But she's talking about how she blew it, and it's just terrible. And then Owen walks up to her at school, and he says, I think you're the coolest.
Oh.
I didn't know almost dying would make me feel so alive. He wants to do it again.
Oh, no.
And Buffy is like, that's why you want to be with me.
Oh.
And then she tells him she just wants to be friends.
It's the adrenaline rush kind of thing. Oh.
And then Giles comes and sees her, all sad. Yeah. And he's talking with her and is kind of trying to console her about like her duty, being the Slayer. And he says he was 10 when his dad told him that he was going to be a Watcher.
Oh, boy.
And Buffy said something like, I bet you were ecstatic. Like, you love that. And he said, no, I was going to be a fighter pilot.
Oh, Giles.
Yep, but his destiny was to become a Watcher.
Oh.
And they said something about Owen, and Buffy said he wants to be Danger Man.
Yeah.
She's afraid she'd get him killed or someone else. Mm-hmm. And then when she says someone else, she looks at Giles, kind of like you. And Giles says he went of his own free will. Yeah. That he doesn't have the book on how everything's supposed to go. But they work together, And then they say, at least we stopped the prophecy. And Giles says, you did, handily. No more anointed one.
Are we sure?
Well, it cuts to the master.
Okay. That's what I was waiting for.
Well, because they say the master must be having a bad day. And then it cuts to the master, and he recites the prophecy again. The whole, the Slayer will not know him, and he will lead her to hell.
Right, yeah.
He says, welcome, my friend, to the little boy from the bus.
I was wondering if the little boy had come back.
Yep.
Kid vampires.
Yep.
Oh, I knew it.
So, like, see that one? I feel like a lot happened, but a lot didn't happen.
It felt like a necessary intro.
Yeah.
You know, like there's more coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and also I like the idea that she's not just like hung up on one boy too, and that she's like interested in other boys and like wanted to date and
like try it out.
Right.
Yeah.
But then also is not going to go with whoever just wants to
be Danger Boy.
There. Yeah. Right.
That's true. I really like that. Oh, that's cute. We got some more Giles action.
Yeah.
We got a little bit more of, Xander being a 12-year-old weirdo.
Right. And Cordelia being the like
God,
queen
she
bee
is
random.
Insufferable.
Yeah. I will say,
if you're gonna tell me she
has
has a
some
redemption
growth.
arc, okay.
But she's always insufferable, in my opinion. Not in everybody's opinion, but in my opinion.
Okay, all right, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good one though. I love Buffy-less.
Yeah, it's fun. Hope it wasn't a suck fest.
Obscurantism and obfuscation.
Orally observed, gentle listener.
Gentle listener.
Gentle listener.
Gentle listener.
Obviated objects of oblivion.
Obambulating about.
Offered unto you.
Offered unto you.
In the Tapestry Radio Network.
TapestryRadio.org.
From our fancy to yours.